Hello, New Earth Economy, friends and family. Welcome to our podcast series here in New Earth Economy. My name is Carmella Watts. I'm your host of New Earth Economy podcast. And today I am honored and just so grateful to get to interview this divine being who I've been dear friends with since 2018. And this beautiful being is a powerful member of our New Earth Economy movement. He is a facilitator. He is a bringer of life on this planet in so many realms of all things beautiful and wonderful. I cannot talk enough about this amazing being. He is the host of Energy Speaks podcast and Energy Speaks by Katriel. Katriel DeWitt is here with us. And I just want to say, first of all, thank you for being here, Katriel. Thank you for sharing your energy and your time. And, you know, my body's getting hot right now, just getting ready to because I know what we're getting ready to share is going to be massive. And Katriel is an amazing being, and he does so much for the collective as an individual and for the group consciousness. And if you haven't checked out his Energy Speaks podcast, please do, because he had some epic podcast moments there with some amazing guests. And he is just a divine being who channels energy. I mean, and that's basically his embodiment is Energy Speaks, and he speaks on many different levels and many different ways of being on this planet. So I'm just really excited about this opening, about this sharing of what Katriel has to bring today. So first of all, welcome, Katriel, to this podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Like, it's such a blessing, and I really honor your work, Carm. I've been listening to these interviews, and last week's was great. And getting to some real rawness of what our world is stepping into. And, you know, I really resonated with it. And so thank you for doing what you're doing. You know?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you everybody for watching and joining in live in our community, and anybody who feels the call, the resonance. And speaking of resonance and frequency, the title of this podcast is, living your life purpose in the MER frequency. And so I just kind of want to dive in with you, Katriel. MER, what is the MER frequency? What is this MER frequency that you speak of that's unique to you and your embodiment? And what does that mean for you in relation to living your life purpose, especially here with the new earth and who we are now, where we are now as a collective?
Okay, I'm going to answer the question, but let's do a tiny exercise first. This is what's coming through. I just want us to kind of 3 times say the word MER, but I'm going to kind of I'm going to show you how it flows, right? MER.
MER. MER.
MER.
MER.
Tell me, when you say that word, does not your heart expand?
Yes, it does. MER.
MER will run the world one day. And what I mean by that is we're meant to live in our heart frequency. We talk a lot about, this Aquarian energy, the Aquarian age. And what does that actually mean? It's the one energy. If we're all of the one, that means we need to be operating from our heart spaces. And so this MER frequency helps me to really express my pure joy through my heart and share that with others. It's kind of like a laugh or a smile. It's contagious. I want to put that out into the universe. That's what I want you to catch. Catch the contagion of love. MER.
How did that word come out when it first organically, was it just an organic expression, or how did you embody that frequency of what that means?
It was an organic frequency. Like it was an organic reaction when I was actually with my nephew. My nephew Jeremiah, I love him so, so dearly. I helped raise him, and we were just having such a I don't even know how old he was at that point. He could have been like 6 or 7. And we were like hanging out together. We were playing with the cat, and like we both at the same time just kind of was like, "Mer." and and it just caught, and it just stayed with me. And it was actually I could do the math. I don't actually want to do the math, but in 2018 is actually, I remember it so clearly. It was right before I came into soul school. It was around that time. And that's when I was really starting to tune into energy, to astrology, what what was my bigger purpose. And that didn't know that was gonna come out. That's kind of funny. And I remember I was actually focused at the time of learning what a Mercury retrograde was. Funny enough.
Born during a Mercury retrograde?
I was not. But my Mercury is, I'm sorry, no. This is actually more relevant. This is where I actually am tuning into like some type of interesting Gemini energy, because Mercury and Gemini have the same frequency. I do have the codes of Gemini in retrograde in Mars. Now try to work that one out. And so, yeah, but in during that time, I was actually really trying to understand, or more so understand, what was a Mercury retrograde and why were people so freaking out about it. It made no sense to me. And what I realized is, when I was listening to like a podcast by Chris Witecki, he was explaining that during a Mercury retrograde, you're kind of like doing the flip side of things. However, normally you like embody your energy or think through that particular rhythm, it's actually being flipped upside down. And what I realized is, wow, that really resonates. And that's not a bad thing, because I also, throughout my life, have always tried to look at the flip side of the coin. When I was told that I could only write with my right hand or do anything with my right hand, I would naturally want to be like, why would I just want to do that if I decided I would learn how to drive with my left hand. And then I realized that I was actually pretty good at anything with my left hand except for writing, except for light language. But it allows us to see from a different perspective. And I feel like I was very open to that because of the fact that I was born intersex. And
what does that mean? Can you go back to describe what does that mean, intersex?
Yeah. I literally was born both genders.
Wow.
Both sexes. Both male and female.
So would that be considered like an androgen energy too? If you're born intersex that way? Is that okay?
I actually, in Judaism, we actually have a book or volume series. It's called the Talmud, and it's the rabbinical writings. It's a bunch of rabbis literally dialoguing back and forth, and they have an entire section of how many different sexes there are, and how like the specifics of things. And I'm like, what were you guys doing with your time? Like, and I'm like, but you know what? It's kind of interesting and useful information, like, wow, we've known about this for so long. Actually, it said that Adam, the first man, was actually created this way. That, like, before, like, Eve or Chava, depending on how you use the name, it's um before she came into the picture, Adam was actually male and female. So I feel like, we have a lot to learn from integrating different energies, honoring your masculine side and honoring your feminine side. And that is totally okay. It doesn't have to be the physical, biological manifestation. I just happen to get that.
Wow. And it's interesting, you make reference to Myrrh and Mercury and astrologically, and we're going to make reference to astrology because we're both astrologers, is that, Mercury is masculine and feminine. It's the Gemini, it's the two, right? So,
Right. And I was also born on a Wednesday.
A Mercury day.
A Mercury day. And in the Kabbalah, one of like the intentions of being born, like one of the sole purposes of being born on a Wednesday is one, literally balancing out your male and female energies, and two, stepping into your king queen type energies. I'm like, whoa. But it's just very interesting how I happen to be born on this day, and that's exactly one of my roles in this lifetime.
Or both roles. Or infinite roles, how
Right.
many genders we have.
Right.
Right? Because we're just starting to get a hold, we're moving past polarity and we're moving into different realms. And gosh, there's so many questions I can ask you about, your, being, and you identify as intersex, is that correct? Is that the proper, I want to make sure to honor how you identify.
Yeah. I identify as intersex. In it, like, how I show up is I really like showing up in my male, like in the forefront. But I don't dishonor my female. I don't dishonor my female because it's my intuition. That's how I honor my female energy. And it's like, if I had to do a lot of work in this area, a lot of healing, because I used to hate the fact that there was some aspect of female to me. And I'm like, then I realized what a gift it really was. Like, I actually am so blessed to have it so apparent in my face to work on these energies, because we're all working on these energies. And when you balance that out, you there's a force, like a deep connection to source energy that I can't explain.
So if I may ask,
Mhm.
for those of us that don't identify as intersex, but still very much have the masculine, the feminine frequencies within us, and you talked about this balancing act, and we just had this potent equinox energy in March 20th, 21st, that this happens every year astrologically, which is really the beginning of the new year. If you follow the seasons, not so much the Gregorian calendar, but the seasons, the natural law season. So that balancing act, do you feel like it's a constant, or do you feel like now, especially after we just, had the new moon in Aries, aligned with the equinox, all about balancing, how do you relate that to balancing the masculine and the feminine in our own lives? And what do those frequencies mean for you to be feminine and to be masculine? Can you go into that a little more?
Sure. It's specifically with walking in and like from the Pisces energy and going into Aries, it's a very, very different energy. And naturally, the way that the astrologers before us, the astronomers, however you want to put it, before us, they they associated water and earth signs being connected with the feminine energies, and the fire and air to be aligned with the masculine energies. So there's a clear, we go from a water sign, a very feminine energy with, and specifically Pisces. So in the Jewish calendar, we have what is called, it's called the month of Adar. That's what our Pisces is. It's the same thing. But we have a holiday called Purim, and it's literally the embodiment of the Pisces story of like, we have a lot of hidden things going on. And if we think about divine feminine, a lot of the stuff that we look at is concealed energy, right? It's hidden. And when the light comes through, like fire, the light literally is that masculine energy, that sun energy, the dominant energy. And so with this holiday, it actually, we celebrate kind of like this idea of, actually, just put this in perspective. It's funny. Like kind of like Halloween. That's Halloween for us. We put on different masks, and we dress up in different characters and everything. So like, we're going from an energy of concealing ourselves, but also tuning into what our light is, so that when we are walking into the Aries energy, we're ready to dissolve those layers, step up, and bam, here we are, you know? And we walk through, because Pisces is the last, for now, it's the last zodiac energy in our cycle. and so it's very important to see how many layers we actually, got throughout the year. Like, everything falls into Pisces. And then we again peel back those layers and come in as a new child for the new year.
So this is so relevant what you're talking about now, Katriel, and especially in relation to the new Earth and the new Earth economy. How it almost seems like all those old masks have dissolved, in the previous years, because we're in this new frequency, this mer frequency, this marriage of our masculine and our feminine in a more balanced way. And how do you feel that changes our perception of experiencing what it means to be new in this newness now, in the new Earth, in our community? And how is that relevant to what we're experiencing now? Especially with all the changes going on this planet. I mean, we're living in monumental times. How do you see that shape shifting, what we do on this earth now, and especially related to currency and money? Because is it mare? We talked about that too, right? Being water. So what are your thoughts on that?
So yeah, we're especially shedding layers, especially as we know Pluto is the planet of transformation. It just literally walked into the energy of Aquarius, which is all about shaking shift up. And so we're about to radically transform I say radically transform in that way because we have the planet of transformation, and we have these radical energies of Aquarius coming together. The last time we saw this was during the Revolutionary Wars. That's huge. And so right now, there's an energy out there that we want change. The question is what do we want to change? And how are we going to, where are we going to put our energy? Do we want to put it in a fight, or do we want to put it into a propeller of light? That's what just came through, a propeller of light. And so right now, it's really important for us to tune in to what our heart wants, what brings us joy. Because there's a good chance that even the technology falls away. It could be we actually innovate it too. Who knows? We don't know what the outcome is. The point is we're tuning into our technology and what's pure, what's holy. And holy is a funny word in the English, especially. It could be holes. Dang it, I got another hole in my shoe. Okay, the lack mentality. It can be the fullness, which is what we're really, I don't know about you, but I would love to see wholeness in the world, which is shalom, literally peace. That's literally what it means. And then there's the elevation of that, which is so, when you can see the light coming through, right? It's like when we have this beautiful embodiment of this wholeness energy, it transcends. I don't know about you, but that is the energy I want to feed. I don't want to speak in knots, really. We got to start reprogramming. We got to start telling new stories. And when we do that as a society, and we put the propeller beneath our feet to do that, like, for instance, the New Earth economy, we're talking about the MER frequency, right? MER frequency is like you said, MER is a sea, the currency. What do we want that to be? Do we want it, this wholehearted exchange between people we love, and hopefully we can expand that love to the whole world, you know? Or do we want what we had in the past? Because it ain't working very well. A lot of holes in it. Guess it's holy.
That's yeah, exactly.
So let's fill it in with love and things we care about. Like, how do you want to build a new earth? Like, what does that look like? Like, we talk about this currency exchange, the cowbell exchange, and we move it up and we move it up, to the different frequencies. It's like we want to create a change in this world, and we need to have the schematic of some sort of, like, where are we putting that energy? Where's that current moving towards? So the vision is so important, beyond important. It's not about, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say the vision and the why is what was coming through. Is so important because really this community, we are creating conscious millionaires. It's not even a question in my mind anymore. And especially since we began this cowbell exchange and the way we actually are now the new banking system where we truly are, just peer to peer. We just do it together real time in these exchanges. And it's changing the way I even see my reality, how the banking system, how I exchange my resources, how I'm, receiving resources. And so it's almost as if because we've been given this divine gift of being able to reclaim our currency, which is our current, the big question is why, what are we going to do with it? And so I know we had talked before this podcast, because that's something that you mentioned. You said, when we do, it's not if we become conscious millionaires, when we do become conscious millionaires and redistributors of wealth, what are you going to do with it? And so I would just like to humbly ask Katriel, just because you are a big being and you work with many different collective groups and organizations, what's your why with once you do reclaim your currency, and what will you be doing with for you, your particular projects with the new earth? And now that you've reclaimed your current back into yourself, which is what this community is allowing for all of us to reclaim our current back into ourselves, where are you going to redistribute that? Where are you going to put that for you?
So those, of course, there's many things, to get to fuel my heart. But there's one that's on my heart, and I've only shared it to other people that I'm conscious of, at least. And so I'm going to share that with you now. I'm here in Jerusalem, and this is ironically kind of the center of the world. A lot of people look to this area, and there's a lot of changes that I would love to see made here. Okay. But one thing, and this comes throughout time and work and love being put in many different areas, but I want to build a place where we all, every single divine soul on this planet, can come into one space, and we can be with each other. We acknowledge each other for who we are, and we love each other. I want that space. I want to create that space. And I feel like I would like to create that building, whatever that looks like. and so I'm going to also share this with you. I had an event this past Motzei Shabbat. For those who don't know, that's a Saturday night. And it was a gallery night. And one of the things I love to do is I love to create sacred spaces. That's part of my Scorpio talent. And also my Cancer moon. Because I like to nurture people. I love to bring people together, have good food. And so I did a gallery night here in my space. I know this looks like Hogwarts, but I don't know how to take it off the screen. I'll figure it out during this time, like this meeting. But I have a very small apartment, but I will tell you, that doesn't matter in the world of Hashem, of source, of spirit, because what I did is I just put the intention of, I want to create a gallery night. It's an open mic. I want to share my art with you, and I would love for you to share yours too. Literally as simple as that. And who showed up that day was Jews from all sides of the spectrum. I'd like to expand that circle even more to even people who are not Jewish, but we got to start somewhere, right? And so people came in from all, and I'm telling you, when we're talking about a dysfunctional family within Judaism, dear heavens, we need some help and prayer. But here's the thing, that wasn't an issue at my event. And you know what? What happened? A dialogue was created as, of course, we're all sitting there eating corned beef and cabbage, Irish food. Like, makes no sense in this complete universe. Like, but it made perfect sense at the same time. We're all sitting there sharing a meal together, which is one of the most sacred things you can do. And then we start dialoguing, and people start asking, like, where do you go to school? What do you do in life? Blah, blah, blah. And that turns into, okay, well, how do you daven? Like, how do you pray? And that's a very, very like scary question sometimes when so many different types of people are together in one space. But you know what? I paid attention to this, and I asked, I said, Hashem, let this be a blessing. Let this be a blessing that we're having this conversation right now. And I will tell you, I have never seen something like that in my life, a dialogue where we were at complete peace with one another. Like this one man literally said, so you're a conservative Jew. Can you tell me what that means? And someone responds and says, well, essentially that means women can do anything. And he's like, well, I'm a man. And he's like, can men do anything? And they're like, absolutely. It's the point is anybody can do anything. He says, that means I'm a conservative Jew. And I said, the fact that he said that he wasn't afraid to say that he literally saw himself as another Jew was incredible here. I'm just saying. Okay? Because people are so fixated on labels. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so, but you know what happened after that? So I shared some of my art and words from my heart. And I shared a poem from a book I'm in the midst of doing. And then another person shared some poetry. And then another person shared a rap. And then someone comes in and says, hey, do you have a guitar? Ironically, I got my guitar back from my friends literally the day before. And so I give him the guitar, and we end up in a song circle for like 3 hours, singing songs at the top of our lungs, saying, at the end, we were all dancing and with one another, singing at the top of our lungs, this is the house of the Lord. This is the house of the Lord. That's where I want to live. Like, and when we say that, like, we're acknowledging that we're all part of the same family. That is what I want to create. And I don't want to just create it once. I want to create it over and over and over again until we all connect and see each other for the beautiful beings we are. That's what I want to do with this currency.
Sounds like you're already doing it. And quite frankly, Katriel, it sounds like, because the bigger mission, what I'm hearing, even in this now moment, there's been more deaths on this planet waged on account of religion than any other mechanism on this planet. So perhaps maybe the new earth is where we can resolve these war codes, which, I'm thinking in our conversation, you said you're here to look at the opposite, right? The inversions. And the inversion of war is Mars, which is energy, right?
Yep.
Action. So how do we take action? Do we war with our brothers and sisters? Do we continue this? Or is that what we are with this Pluto transforming the frequency of Mars that was maybe inverted into wars and reverting it back into Mars, which is just energy, action, light, movement, which can be found in dance, in song, and creation. And as you were speaking, I'm hearing, you said art, and you were sharing your art, and the word art is actually in the formation of heart, right? We hear, ear, heart, language, Mercury, myrrh, these are all languages, sounds, how we connect words together. And maybe this is a recalibration of how we are speaking into existence the realities that we want to see, that's not inverted anymore, that's actually created in its default form, which is from love. Because
Amen.
even the word evolve spelled backwards is love, right? So the myrrh frequency to me is the myrrh, which is Mercury, the mind, language, and magic, and how we can recalibrate our realities by what we're speaking, what we're seeing, what we're communicating to ourselves, to our communities. And what's coming in, Katriel, really big is that you said you want to create a building where anybody can come and be themselves and express who they are. And you know what's interesting? We're already doing it in the etheric planes when we connect online every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, when we get together and we do these exchanges. That's exactly what we're doing. But we're doing it in this online container. And so what I'm hearing from you is that you want to create an actual physical space that we can do that.
Yeah.
It's
And like I don't see, I feel like part of my goal is because I'm over here on this side of the world, it's here, but I feel like there's going to be many of these. These are going to be the healing domes of light. I just like that just came through. These are going to be the healing domes of light. When back in 2017 and 2018, when I was going into Orosoma, Orosoma is a beautiful, I don't even know how to explain this art form. Like, guys, look it up. I will have better words at some point. I have a podcast on it. Honestly, that's where my words are. But the healing vibrational codes within Orosoma, it's working with that light energy, right? I started to get really inspired by all of the downloads during my my training in Orosoma, and I created art, and I created some art having to do with healing domes, and that I feel like is part of the key. And also another thing I want to say is you were in a conversation literally by what the words you just spoke in regards to the languages, the universal languages. I was saying that earlier today at the Jerusalem Intercultural Center. No joke. I was explaining, the way we help to change the world is through light, movement, and sound, which is what you just said. The art, the dance, the music, and of course, food. Sharing of food. That's how we ground it in. And so, like, I feel like when we start focusing not on what we perceive as an issue, that's the thing, is we keep focusing on the issue. That's not how things work in the universe. We just end up fueling the issue. Like, issue actually in the Bible, how we used to use it is actually a child. We keep burning a child, another one, because we keep focusing on what we're not necessarily supposed to be focusing on. We're supposed to be focusing on love codes. As we keep feeding our heart, the other crap doesn't even matter. We got to start manifesting our fullest potential here.
What is it that there's I have Native American ancestry, and I'm thinking of a quote. Is it what you feed will grow?
I was actually thinking of something very similar to that, has to do with the two wolves. There was a chief, he's a father, and he's talking to his son, and he's telling his little boy about there are two wolves, and this wolf was a light wolf, and it stood for everything that's of love and of good in the world. And he was also going to go and battle the dark wolf that stood for all that was evil and nasty and ugly in the world. And they were going to go and duel, a big duel. And so the child's getting all into this story and saying, so daddy, who wins this epic battle between the light wolf and the dark wolf? And he says, son, the wolf you feed. You can continue to keep feeding the dark energy, and that's exactly the wolf that will win. Or we can start living in our hearts and fueling the light and the truth and the love. And that's the wolf that will be so big, it like transforms us all.
You know, it's interesting because as you're speaking, I'm getting the visual of the light and the dark. And you know, it's all the self. And
It
so
all
where
is
do
self.
you know, the
Absolutely.
dark wolf and the light wolf, where do they exist? They exist right here, right here. And it's the thoughts that you feed. And it really
Yep.
is paramount to focus on the thoughts that will bring you joy and
Mhm.
energy and vitality, which is the lighter thoughts. And I don't want to disrespect the dark, because to me the dark is the void, it's the feminine, and it's not, you know, there's so much polarity in this world right now with good and evil, and there are maleficent forces, and I'm not
Mhm.
denouncing that and saying that, to me that's like an inverted dark, you know, the inverted unknown. But
Yeah,
you know, these forces that you speak on, these wolves, it's all within us. And so we
absolutely.
have a choice point. The myrrh frequencies, Mercury is, we get to choose what we think about, what we put our focus on. Now, mind you, thoughts
We
will
need
come out, you know,
Yeah,
consciousness of conversations, but it's just a thought, and it's what you decide to focus on in that thought form, which will grow. And I've even you're saying wolf, and I'm thinking like wolfing it down, like food. You know, sometimes we just wolf down our meals, right? Because we're on the go. And it's like, what I'm hearing from you is savor each moment, savor each
yeah,
now moment, be present with it, consume it
yeah.
mindfully. And that goes with everything. What are you consuming on television? What are you consuming in your bodies? What information are you listening? Because these are all consumptions too, right? What's your consummations, which is the polarity of Scorpio and Taurus, right? Because Scorpio is
Mhm.
what we merge with intimately, but then Taurus is what we feed ourselves. So I feel like there's a correspondence there too. And
Absolutely.
that's going
And I
further.
think that's
Well,
no, that's exactly the point though, is like the world has been set up in these dualistic ways. And you have to go deeper and in order to really see the bigger vision, right? We need to be better organizers. You know what I mean? Like, okay, there's a time and a place for us to feel those dark energies. But if we're always focusing on it, then that doesn't do any good, you know? And even me saying that, you know what I mean? We could do this all day, right? Like, but the point is like this embodiment and really being very intentional with what we do, like what you were just saying. Like, what are we doing on the day to day, and how is that actually helping us in being a better being for ourselves, for our children, for our friends, for everyone around us. And that's what really matters. You can have bad days. It's totally okay, you know? But when we look at the sun and we look at the moon, we see that the sun has the more dominant energy. Domingo, right? Like Sunday, like it has the majority of the light. The moon is a reflection of that. So that means We just have to outweigh, we have to have the light a little bit brighter than the moon.
51% light, 49% dark. I've been saying this for
Like just just a little bit more. And that's the thing, is like, that's a huge principle within Judaism too. When we talk about like these Kabbalistic energies, it's like, at the end of the day, if you can say that you had a more energies that come up as like predominantly a good experience, like something of joy, that's awesome, but we also honor those moments where we didn't have, and maybe those actually help us to have better moments, because we acknowledged that energy as well. We acknowledged it, and we said, okay, you are of use for something within inside of me. The thing is, we have to be more, again, more intentional. Like the gratitude. We talk about the gratitude. On the last podcast, we talked about gratitude. Gratitude is the freaking key for whatever experience you are having. Because when we can get into that, we can start really doing big things. And big things don't have to be like the biggest thing in the world, but big to you. Potent things. Sorry, go ahead.
As the creator of Energy Speaks podcast, and as a creator of your own life, what would you like to leave this planet with as we are coming to a conclusion of this particular conversation? And I have a feeling we're going to have many more conversations, Katriel. And I would like to humbly invite you back into this podcast and to have more conversations, because you're so versed in so many talents and skills and, occult wisdom and knowledge. But for this conversation today, in this now moment, as energy is speaking through you, what would you like to leave those who are watching in any time, any now moment, when they watch this now or in the future or whatever, because we're in no time? What legacy would you like to leave, or awareness, as you're speaking this energy into creation to our audience, to those that are watching?
I'm going to give like a little tiny example, and I'm going to move it into something very practical of what I'm working on. I want every single being on this planet, I want to reach as many people on this planet of feeling that they feel valued and loved. I was talking to someone, I can't even remember who it was at this exact moment, but I was talking to someone. It was about Rabbi Carlbach, Rabbi Carlbach in Judaism. He would go and he would hug every single person he met, and he would count how many people, and he would keep a tally. And he ended up going to a jail. And when he was at this jail, he hugged every single person. And this one person came back to him at the very end and said, Rabbi Carlbach, can I please give you a hug? I know you already gave me a hug, but I never had a hug before you gave me a hug in my life. Can you imagine if he would have had a hug as a child, that being, he probably wouldn't have been in jail. So I want to leave a mark on this world, especially through Energy Speaks podcast. I've been very, very, very clear on this. Is I don't care who you are. Every single person on this planet has something very, very important to say. And I want to give you the sacred space to be able to speak that out, even if it's a conversation that you're having with yourself. And I just hold space. I've done those podcasts before. The feeling of of being able to be appreciated for the holy souls that we are is one of the most important things we can do, is acknowledge someone. And so that is my purpose here. And also how to live your soul purpose. That's the second thing. But I think the first one is it can be so simple if we allow it to be.
Yield with a kiss. Keep it super simple. That's our motto in our community.
I
I just really want to say thank you, Katriel, for sharing your light and your essence and your wisdom and your continued journeys into this planet, what you're doing, what you're bringing, your essence and your intention, because this community is big about our why. Why are we here? Why are we here in the new earth doing what we're doing? And we're showing up for our soul passions. And it's outside of the work matrix. It's outside of any other matrix that we have been in and before this now time, because we're in a very new energy right now, all of us as a collective. And I just really want to thank you for the work that you're doing for the collective, for healing the planet, for bringing these frequencies of unconditional love and transparency, and just allowing people to be themselves in every now moment. And that's the intention for this podcast as well, is just to keep the conversation going about what it means to be in the new earth, how we want to contribute, how we want to share ourselves. And I am so grateful that you took your time, which to me is your most valuable, precious resource, for this community to speak, to share, and to help us grow, and to really anchor in what it is we are about in this now time moment. What are we moving to as a collective? What are we growing? What are we focusing on? What wolf are we feeding? And you just help feed more love into this planet through this conversation. And I'm so grateful for you. So thank you.
Thank you so much
Bottom
for
of my
having me
heart,
on
thank
here.
you.
Carm, I love you. We've been through so many things, especially on road trips and more, and soul school. Like, I'm
So
so
many
grateful to be
conversations.
able, so many. Like, I'm just so grateful to be here. It's an honor to literally have these moments with you. It's an honor. And thank you for thinking of me to be able to just have this divine conversation. And I hope, my hope is it blesses every single being on this planet, whether you watch this or you don't.
It's out there. Well, I'm looking forward to
Man.
having you on this podcast again in the future. And we're gonna just keep deep diving into, because we are community members as well. We share a lot of common communities that we are a part of. And thank you everybody for watching this podcast, for listening in wherever you now be. And just hit the like or subscribe button. We're on YouTube. We're also on Spotify, and we're getting into more of the platforms, and we're just growing. Again, this just began. We are a new creation, and we are feeding and nourishing this beautiful little child, which is the new earth economy, to grow it into a beautiful adult full of potential and love and abundance. And again, thank you for sharing your time and energy. And we're looking forward to seeing you next Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard for another beautiful podcast presenter that I forget who's next. So to be continued, be on the lookout, but check out our page and just hit the like and subscribe. And again, thank you again, Katriel. And check out, please, Energy Speaks Podcast. Katriel, he's in season 2, I now believe, with some amazing interviews, some really raw and beautiful moments that we got to capture. And please check him out as well, Energy Speaks Podcast. Thank you for your time, everybody. We love you. And Katriel, be seeing you soon in our exchange, okay? Mwah.
Mwah.
Bye, family.